Hi everyone, is the audio clear? Don't know, something happened. I don't know. My laptop simply went blank. Hello, is the audio clear? Okay. Yes. Okay. I thought maybe I did not plug in the power, but if you see, it is almost like 92% charge. So I don't know what the reason happens. Windows is known for this. So let's come back again. Let me started the. I need to get the. Let me get console. So let us go to R6 now. Again, I don't know what the configuration is saved or not. Let me see. Show run pipe section key. Let's see that keychain is there. Or the configuration is gone. Yes. So no, actually, I think did I put Cisco or Cisco wanted? Okay, doesn't matter. We no, this is some different keychain AAA. Anyway, let it be quickly. I'll do that. The keychain, what was it? R3 hyphen R6 key ID 1 key string was, we kept only, as I said, only Cisco. Okay. So as I was explaining that the key string Cisco and the key ID must match. So many people, what they do, whenever authentication configuration is there, it's best to what, copy this in a notepad file and then exactly copy paste from one to the other device also, because parameters must match. So done. So this is first step in authentication. Okay. Now next step is what? You need to go where? On the interface. Towards the, because in EAzure, in RIP and EAzure, as I said, neighbor authentication is what? Per neighbor. Screen is not visible. How screen is not visible? Are you guys able to see the console? What I'm configuring now? Yes. That is what is there on the screen. So I go to where? Now the interface, as per the diagram, what is the interface on R6? It is serial 0/0. So I need to go to that interface serial 0/0. And then the command is what? The command starts with what? On the interface, most of the command always start with what? IP. So now IP RIP, and then what? Authentication. And then you need to define what? How you want the authentication to be done. As I said, RIP support what? Clear text as well as MD5. So let me show you only very quickly. We'll see text. Text basically means what? Simple authentication, plain text authentication. That means the password will be sent in what? Clear text. That is what I want to show you. So first I'm telling Rick, you need to do authentication. How? Plain text authentication, simple authentication, clear text authentication. Then I say what keychain will you use? The name of the keychain what I created over here. So apply the keychain. Done. Last time if you see on R6, do show IP route RIP. It is having so many routes previously. Now if I do clear IP routes star, what happens? Now R6 has been enabled for authentication. What we find? Nothing. So there is no route now. That doesn't mean that R3 is not sending the route. R3 is still sending the updates, but now R6 is not going to accept the updates. Why? Because now R6 is expecting what? Authentication. That means with the update, R6 is expecting what? The key. The key must come. What is the key I have kept? Cisco. So now to show you that the drawback of clear text authentication, let us enable this sniffer quickly. So if you see RIP, is there any RIP message? There is a RIP. So see the RIP is from where? R6 going to multicast 224.0.0.9. And if I open this RIP packet over here, you see authentication. It says authentication simple password has been, that means now authentication has been enabled. And if you see the password, see clear text. So if somebody captures this, puts some intruder is there, he's monitoring your link, is capturing your packets traffic, he'll be able to see what password you have set. This is not good, but anyway, just to show I have done it. So clear. So now what happens? If I don't configure on R3, there won't be routing failure now. So now RIP communication has been what? Secured. How it has been secured? By some simple password. Now R6 says I'm not going to accept any packets without authentication. We can even see in debug also. Do debug IP RIP now. If I say do debug IP RIP, let's see what debug shows you. This is R6 sending updates. Let us see if R6 received update from R3. R6 should receive an update from R3. Is R3 already up? Yes, R3 is up. And you see now, yes, it says, see, I received an update from this guy. Invalid authentication. Do on all, just disable the authentication. Disable the debugging, and if you see now what message is invalid authentication. So now R6 says, sorry, authentication is invalid. I'm not going to accept this version 2 packet. I'm not going to open this packet at all. So it is ignoring now. It is sending, and it is along with the update, it is also sending what? The password. That is what we see here. See, RIP so beautiful. Wireshark clearly shows your protocol. See all the messages. In R3, if you see, I selected R3. In R3, nowhere it is authentication. But if I select R6, you see authentication information. Authentication is there like that. So that's the reason. Now no communication. Both the routers will not accept each other's route. Even R3 also, the routes will be gone. So how to solve this quickly? You need to go and enable authentication on R3 also. The first step will be what? Define the keychain. I can give any name on R3. On R6 I kept what? R3 hyphen. It need not be same. It can be same also. Let us keep it something different. But most important inside is what? Key ID. What key ID I selected there? 1. So same over here. And then key string must be also same. If I put anything different, again authentication failure will happen. So once you define the keychain, you need to go where? To the interface. So R3 is, which interface is toward R6? Serial 2/0. Interface serial 2/0. Go inside there, and then same command IP rip. You say, hey IP rip, you need to do authentication. How you'll do authentication? Clear text, and then I say, hey IP rip, you need to do authentication, and for authentication which keychain will you use? XYZ. Done. And now both will be sending. Let us see in the sniffer. Let us see our latest packet from R3. This is not a R6 is still showing authentication. Let us see, do we have anything every 30 seconds? So you need to wait. So, okay, there, and there you see now R3 also started saying that, okay, I also want to do simple authentication and my password will be Cisco. So R6 is also Cisco, R3 is also Cisco, both are happy. And now if we go back to R3, last time no routes were there because R6 was not accepting, but if I do now do show IP route, do show IP route rip, and you see again the routing table is populated. Okay, so this is RIP authentication quickly. Now let us go and do EIGRP authentication now. Okay, so I'll go to where? R8 now this time. Where is R8? Not there. Let me take the console of R8, and we'll take console of R7 also. And we already have redistribution and all. Let me have R4. So if you see on R4, we'll have routes of R8. Show IP route OSPF all the way on R4. See 80.8. This is the network of R8. If R4 is sending traffic to this IP, is it going right now? Source. So see the traffic is going, and now what happens on R8? The administrator has decided to do what? Authentication. If you see now, show IP route EIGRP, R8 has so many routes learning via redistribution external routes from R7, and now our EIGRP domain, they have decided to do what? The communication, EIGRP communication must be what? Secured, and that's the reason authentication needs to be enabled. How we do that? Keychain. Again, same exactly. I'll just quickly again keep XYZ, very easy. Key ID 1, the string over here. Let's say let's have disco also. One side Cisco, the other side let's have disco. Done. And then as I said, same like EIGR, same like RIP, nothing great, you know. What you do? Identify the interface towards R7. What is the interface? As per the diagram, it is fast Ethernet 0/0. Go on the interface. And now if you see, for RIP the command was starting with what? IP RIP authentication. But if you see now, here the command doesn't start with IP EIGRP. There is no command. If you see unrecognized. So how is the command? Slightly shuffled. The command is IP authentication mode. Same mode and keychain. If you put question mark, see you have both the options. Same like RIP. IP authentication mode, IP authentication. The only thing is that instead of specifying the routing protocol before, see the fun now. Now you specify what? EIGRP. Which EIGRP? AS100. And then if you put question mark, there is only one mode. Why? Because EIGRP does not support the plain text authentication. Only MD5 authentication is EIGRP supporting now. Okay. See, I don't get any option other than MD5. And now you see immediately one enabled neighborship, enabled authentication, neighborship is down. And if neighborship is down, you see R4 started losing connectivity. Let me quiet R4. Let us quiet R4. Calm down. Don't panic. And what you need to do now? Again, which key? So I say IP authentication keychain for whom? This keychain for whom? EIGRP. Which EIGRP? 100. And what's the name of the keychain I created? XYZ. So apply the keychain. Two commands on the interface. First command to tell the protocol it has to do authentication how, maybe clear text or maybe MD5 like that. Second command to specify what will be used for the authentication. That means to specify the password or key, right? Let us go further now. See neighborship down. If you see, if I do show IP route EIGRP, what happens? Nothing, because neighborship only itself is not there. If I do show IP EIGRP neighbor, no neighborship, because now R8 says sorry R7, I'm not going to form my adjacency with you because I need authentication. Without authentication, I'm not going to say a single word. So now this time, so this is on R8. How is the configuration I've done? Do show run section EIGRP. If you see how the EIGRP configuration is there, I've done traditional EIGRP configuration, like normally, right? Router EIGRP number and then it's like that, same. This is like your traditional EIGRP. Now on R7, what I'll show you right now on R7, if you do see, R7 is also I have configured traditionally only. But what I'll do, I'll remove the traditional and we enable what? 64-bit authentication. Why? Because in 64-bit authentication, we can have what? The SHA support also. Normal traditional EIGRP only MD5s. So if in the exam, if they say EIGRP communication must be secured using SHA algorithm, then you should understand that you cannot configure traditional. Then you should configure what? And if you remember, please remember, if I remove EIGRP now, this redistribute also will go away. Anyway, right now let us not focus on redistribution, that is already there. I'll just remove this EIGRP, no router EIGRP 100, EIGRP is gone. I enable again EIGRP, router EIGRP, and if you see 64-bit, we specify what? Some name. Let us keep the name Okta, and then inside this, what is this? Address family, IPv4, unicast, and then I specify what will be the autonomous system. So autonomous system must match. This name need not match. This is locally significant. This instance name, logical name, virtual name need not match. But inside this, for one family, this autonomous system must match. And then what next we do? What next we do? Next we say network command for the link. What is an IP address for the link? 170.10.78.0 wildcard mask 0.0.255. Done. Maybe if I have some look back, I can advertise. Yes, I have 70. Let us advertise this look back. 70.7.7.7. All, if I specify full IP, then 4 times 0, 4 cell. Whichever way you advertise doesn't matter. /24/32 doesn't matter. So now if you see R7, I have configured EIGRP. I have advertised the link. I have advertised the network command. On R8 also, did I do the same? Yes, on R8 also the link is advertised, this thing. But are they forming neighborship? Do show IP EIGRP neighbor? No, no neighbors. Why? Because one side is configured for what? Authentication. The other side is still not configured for authentication. Now, what is the requirement for authentication? On our side, R8 side, what is the requirement? What is the requirement for R8? R8 I configured what? Right? Authentication I configured. Which authentication I said? Mode MD5, right? So R7 also should support now what? MD5. And for MD5, what you require? You require what? A keychain. Did I define the keychain on R7? No. Okay, no problem. Let us do. But now see what? Do I have the command to define anywhere keychain? No. Okay. Second thing is what? On R8, where I specified the mode and where I specified the keychain on the interface. I did not go inside the process, right? Remember, see on RED, authentication commands are not inside the process. These two commands I configured were on the interface. Okay, but now in 64-bit EIGRP, named EIGRP, you cannot specify on the interface. Even if I go, command is there, but it won't work. So what needs to be done? See, there is a command which is called as what? AF address family interface command. So now you need to go inside this interface. So slight difference. What they did, instead of now exiting the mode, EIGRP mode, and going to the actual physical interface, no. From the EIGRP process itself, you specify the interface. What is the interface? Fast Ethernet 0/0 as per the diagram. And over here, if you see, if I put authentication, the command is there. And then what I want to do, you see both options are available, MD5 or SHA. So if I select MD5, then for MD5 what I need? Keychain. For SHA you don't require keychain. Okay, for SHA very quickly we'll do this. First we'll do MD5, I'll show you MD5, and then I say authentication keychain. Let us again give the name XYZ are not defined, so no problem, you can define first and then apply, or you can apply first and then normally you should first create then apply. So all proper planning in a real environment. Done, authentication is done. Now what I do, exit the mode, define the key chain quickly, XYZ. So if I put here name XYZ, then I need to define the keychain with the same name. Key ID on R8, what key ID I selected? 1. What is the key string I selected? Disco. So same should match here. And there you see immediately neighborship up. Finish. Again quickly, if you want to see the configuration all together, let me show you the configuration on R7. Show run pipe section keychain pipe EIGRP all together. And there you see keychain, key ID 1, key string disco. Then I went into router EIGRP, defined this, address family this. I went inside address family AF interface fast Ethernet, authentication mode I specified MD5. I applied the this keychain over here. Then I exited the interface. These are the configuration, EIGRP configuration. And they have become neighbor. If they have become neighbor, will communication start? Now communication won't happen. Why? Because redistribution will not be there. But at least what about the routes? Will R8 get the route from R7? If R7's own route, yes. And there you see R8 is accepting R7's route, and same way R7 is also going to accept R8's route. So they are exchanging. Now redistribution, I need to go inside what? EIGRP, and I need to do redistribution. I need to go inside OSM. Anyway, right now we'll ignore that because you guys already know. So R8 comparatively, the configuration of R8 is what? Show run. If you see section EIGRP, inside EIGRP, there is no authentication, anything, normal EIGRP. But the commands are where? On the interface. These two commands I configured where? On the interface. So traditional configuration was simple, but now the new EIGRP 64-bit in EIGRP configuration, it was slightly twisted. Concept remains same. You require previously also 2 commands. Now also you require 2 commands. You previously require a keychain. Now also you still require a keychain. The concept is what? The key ID and key string must match. So everything same, but only command locations have changed. Let us do SHA algorithm now. But if I want to do SHA, what will happen? R8 is having what? Traditional. So R8 traditional won't work. Both the side must have what? 64-bit EIGRP. Then only it will work. Okay. Okay. Anyway, I'll show you both. So let us go first. First, remove the previous configuration. Now go to the interface. It is not needed now. So we go to the interface and remove this. Remove that. Then I say no router EIGRP 100, EIGRP gone. Again, quickly I'll enable router EIGRP Okta address family IPv4 unicast, and then autonomous system number. Unicast is optional, need not be there, not necessary. Inside this, network commands, one 170.78.0.0.0.255. Then the link loopback I want to advertise 80.8.8.0.0.255. Done. So R8 is ready. Now R8 also I want to do what? Authentication. But which method? SHA. So as I said, whether it is SHA or MD5, now you don't need to exit the EIGRP process because command is no longer on the interface. You need to specify the interface within the process, and for that you have a command AF interface address family. So I'm telling this address family you will be using which interface? Fast Ethernet 0/0. And then over here I specify authentication. And now which mode? This time I'm not going to select MD5. We already done MD5, so I'm going to select what? SHA. In the SHA, for SHA the command is what? The syntax command is HMAC SHA, and it is 256-bit algo in SHA. Last number indicates what? How big will be the keys? 256-bit. So very secure, very strong power compared to MD5. SHA algorithm is more powerful, more strong, more difficult to crack. And if you see now, the moment I say HMAC SHA, there is incomplete command. For MD5, the command was accepted. Why? Because MD5 requires what? Separate key. But here, if you see, you need to specify the key password straight away. One single line. That means for SHA authentication, you don't require the keychain. So slightly easy. One single command for doing the authentication. Even though the command is inside the process, but now in the new EIGRP, authentication for SHA is what? It will be more secured, and the configuration is also easy. I can specify the password straight away like that. If you put question mark, line password basically means what? Just put the password. Let's say I want Cisco 123 as the password for SHA. In your exam, you don't need to bother. They will tell you. Follow. Now observe carefully how I'm doing. Exactly. Don't try to do innovations. Now what will happen? They will not form adjacency. Why? Because one side is telling SHA authentication, the other side is using a different algorithm, so it won't happen. So I need to go where? Again to EIGRP. Let us and go to EIGRP. Where is EIGRP Okta? Over here. Then address family. Then I go inside AF Fast Ethernet 0/0. And then if you remember previously I had done authentication mode, so I need to remove that MD5 now. This one, so I'll say I don't require MD5. Then I remove that keychain. Always, anytime you configure something, and if that configuration doesn't work, you should immediately remove that non-working configuration. Anytime you configure something and suppose you don't require that configuration any longer, you want to do something else, In that case also, always remove unwanted configuration. Always keep on the router mode will override, but that keychain will still be there. Okay, that this all these basic things you can check yourself. Okay, instead of removing, yes, it will override. Mode command, you can't have both at the same time, but the keychain will get removed. So better, whether it will override or not, best is what, remove it manually. Keychain will still be left. So now I removed the previous configuration. That is what I'm saying. If something is not needed, remove it. In your real exam also, R8 they are showing you already pre-configured for SHA authentication, but when you go to R7, when if you do show run, you find that on R7 the configuration is what, configured for MD5. Wrong. So better remove that first and then apply. So now I say authentication mode SHA. For SHA the command starts with what, HMAC, and then the key. What key I kept on R8? Cisco 123. But I did not, yes. And there you see neighborship is up here. One single line authentication is done. One interface, only one mode is applicable. You can't have both. It will always override. But better remove manually. You can stick to whatever you feel comfortable. I would recommend always manually remove and then configure. Then this is EIGRP authentication. Does not support MD clear text, only supports either MD5 or SHA. You can do MD5 and SHA only in 64-bit. In traditional old EIGRP, only MD5. That's it. So RIP and EIGRP configuration almost similar as far as keychain is concerned. And traditional EIGRP configuration almost identical. The commands are also on the interface in RIP also. The commands are also in EIGRP also on the interface. Done? Okay. Let's move to now OSPF, because OSPF will give a lot of challenges. So as I said in OSPF now, okay. First we'll see what, neighbor authentication. And then we'll see what, area authentication, area based authentication. So it, in the exam they're not, they will give you a task. That task you need to read carefully, and you need to understand what they are expecting you to do. Are they expecting you to do neighbor authentication, or are they telling you to do area based authentication? So from the task given, you should understand. So now see what I'm saying now. Let us first see the diagram of our routing. Let us see the diagram of the routing. What I have, let me minimize the config, this thing. So this is the diagram which we were using whenever we did route filtering, whenever we did route redistribution, right? I was showing all these 6 routers as what, part of OSPF, but in reality they are not in one single area. It is what, made up of what, multiple areas, right? So let us see. So this diagram does not give any idea about the areas. So let me close down. Let us see the actual OSPF diagram. So if you see now, R4, R5, they belong to which area? Area 45. R5, R3, they are in area 35. Then you have area 0. Then you have area 10 down. So there are altogether 4 different areas. And if you see, area 45 is not directly connected. Already shown you earlier that it is not directly connected. Area 45 won't communicate. If area 45 is communicating, why? Because I must have configured what? Over here I must have configured on this transit area, I must have configured virtual link VL. With virtual link it is as good as what? R5 is becoming part of area 0 or R3 is becoming part of area 45. That means this, the area between 45 and 0, 35, area 35 is getting like compressed. It is getting like collapsed. So virtual link basically collapses the transit area virtually, not physically. The physically the path is all the traffic will always pass through area 35 only. That config area virtual link configuration also I had shown you. Now we'll see further. Okay, so now see what I say. R5 and R4 communication, R5 and R4 communication must be secured. R5 and R4 must communicate securely. That means I'm telling what I need to do authentication. I'm telling what there must be authentication. But now what I said, R5 and R4. Did I say area 45 must be doing authentication, or did I say area 45 communication must be secured? No, I clearly specified 2 routers. So this indicates what? It is neighbor authentication I am talking about. Okay. So now how to do first neighbor authentication? Again, see, like OSPF, EIGRP, basically it is what? 2-step. Only thing is that in OSPF we don't have any kind of keychain. What we need to do, just we need to tell first command to tell OSPF you need to do authentication, and second command to tell OSPF what key, what password to be used for authentication. That's it. Okay. So now let me go to if you see right now R4, is R4 able to ping R8? No, not it won't ping R8 because that redistribution I have not configured down. But let us ping some other place. Can R4 ping R7 170 10 dot up to at least R7? Can R4 reach up to R7 because R7 is part of OSPF? And you see this communication is still happening. Why it is happening? Because R4 has all the routes in its routing table via OSPF. See, it has R1's route, R1, R2, R7. Everybody's route is there in its routing table. Why? Because right now, because of virtual link. Suppose virtual link is not there between 5 and 3, R4 will not have reachability to R7 other areas. Because that is a rule. If an area is not physically connected to area 0, the backbone area, the most important area, then you must be connected virtually, logically, but at least must be connected. So this is a proof of what? Virtual link is already configured between 5 and 3, the transit area ABRs. So let us see now. See, observe carefully. Focus on R7 route. Are the R7 routes there in the routing table as of now? Yes. Now, as I said, 5. You have been given a task to do what? Authentication between which 2 routers? 5 and 4. So I go to 5 now. So I go to router 5 now. And show IP protocol to check which process number is there, OSPF. Okay, it is process 1. So go inside router. So now see, the command is inside the process, first command. And the command is what? Area. Sorry, not area. Sorry. No, I'm not doing area based authentication. We are doing authentication for what? Neighbor. Only 5 and 4 should authenticate. If you see in the diagram, R5 might be connected to some other router also in area 45. It could be like this. This could be area 45. But they're telling us what? Only 4 and 5 must talk securely. R5 talking to R10, maybe normal it is talking, no problem. R4 talking to R10, normal, no problem. But maybe here I want something. Maybe there is some problem. So they are giving you like this task. 4 and 5, they must talk securely with each other. So it is basically neighbor authentication. If it is neighbor authentication, okay, where do we go? We don't go inside the process. So anytime you're doing neighbor authentication, it is like RIP and EIGRP. You go to the interface connecting the neighbor because it is per neighbor, right? So go to the interface towards the neighbor. So as per the diagram, what is the interface of R5 towards R4? It is fast reconnect 0/0. And there you will tell what? Hey, OSPF, you need to do authentication. So the first command will be what? IP OSPF authentication. Enter. So first I'm telling what? IP OSPF authentication. When I say this, what type of authentication I'm specifying? Simple authentication, plain text authentication. If you remember earlier I had written that OSPF supports what? Plain text authentication also. It is also sometimes called as what? Clear text authentication, simple authentication, and it also supports what? MD5. So suppose they say they're telling you what? R5 and R4 communication must be what? Plain text authentication or simple clear text authentication. Okay. So if you see now immediately neighborship is down. The moment I enabled authentication on R5, now R5 neighborship with R4 is down. And if R5 and our neighborship with R4 is down, what will happen? R4 will lose all the routes. R4 will lose all the routes. See, whatever routes it was learning from R5, all the routes will be gone because neighborship is down. So just telling OSPF to do authentication. So when you do only this much command, we are telling what? Plain text authentication. Suppose if I put question mark there, if you see you have option what? Message digest authentication. And now you also see something called as what? Null. Null basically means what? No authentication. That means that was the default. Okay. So you don't specify null basically because null is the default. By default in OSPF, there is no authentication, but that is also now specified as what? Null. So if you want, if they say neighborship authentication should be more secure, then that means what? You need to go for what? MD5. MD5 stands for what? Message digest. If I don't specify message digest, that means it is plain text authentication. So just like that, plain text. And then the second command, now OSPF says, okay, you are telling me to do authentication. Okay, give me the key. So again, the command starts with what? IP OSPF and then authentication hyphen key. And then you specify the key, whatever key you want. Again, we'll use, let's say Cisco CCI. Now it is telling you the password cannot be, see, your router is helping us that the password cannot be more than 8 characters. Cisco CCI is like almost like 9 characters. This like that. So okay, no problem. So better is what? Remove this and provide a bet in your exam. If they ask you to do something, you won't get like that. Whatever passwords they will tell you to configure, the exam devices will support. Please understand. Okay, you won't get like this error messages that it is not supporting the key, whatever they are specifying, it is going to be not supported. No, in exam it will be always like that. So now Let us keep Cisco only, stick to Cisco. Done, finish. What we did, do show run interface fast Ethernet 0/0 IP OSPF authentication, IP OSPF authentication key Cisco. Done. Neighborship will be down. R4 is down. There is nothing, no communication can happen with R4 now. R4 is isolated. So now I need to go and tell R4, R4, you need to talk with your R4. Also same IP OSPF authentic. Now on R5, remember I shown you all the full command, but on R4 I'm going to show you shortcuts. So IP OSPF AU, that's it, and enter. So you should know the command and you can practice shortcuts. IP, then OS again for OSPF, but here authentication you need to specify what, -K, and then password. What password I kept on R5, Cisco. Now you cannot shorten Cisco, okay? Password cannot be shortened. Done. 4 and 5 they should form neighborship again, and there you see they have formed neighborship again. And again R4 will get all the reachability like previous. So this is very simple neighborship authentication. Go to the interface towards a particular neighbor, whichever neighbor they ask you to do, and then enable the authentication. They will tell you either to do plain text authentication or they will tell you either to do MD5. Okay, either one of them. The default is null authentication. Now in OSPF, basically this authentication has what, type codes. In OSPF we have basically what, these authentications have what, some type code. This plain text authentication is called as what, type code 1, and this MD5 is called as what, type code 2, and the null authentication, the default is what, 0. So there are basically 3 authentication type codes, 0, 1, 2. 0 basically means what, null authentication. It is type, but basically nothing, we don't need to configure anything, we don't need to specify any password like that. Null authentication is what, it's a type, but we don't need to specify any password. By default only it will be there. Like, let me show you the sniffer without, like, let us go to some other place and we'll see the sniffer. Let me first disable the sniffer on. Okay, let us go between 5 and 3. Let us enable the sniffer here. Right now if you see, because in the OSPF header that authentication field is always there, so some value has to be there in the field. So if no authentication is there, what will be the field, what will be the value for the field? 0. So let me start the capture, because sometimes seeing is believing. Because the header cannot go empty, value has to be written, so it will be like zeros only. Let us pick up, let us pick some OSPF hello. So I picked up one hello. Let us open it now. See your authentication. Did I configure? It is there by default. That means no authentication means null authentication. That field will be always, the field is always there. The field is always already there. Okay, not a big deal. Now let's see the diagram again. in OSPF, which area is the most important area, most critical area? The backbone area, the core area, that is area 0. So now suppose, see what I say, listen carefully. Area 0 communication must be most secured. Area 0 communication must be secured, or let's say, or I say area 0 communication must be secured by MD5 authentication, or I'll say area 0 authentication must be as per type code 2. So you should understand what type code 2 basically means. What? MD5 they are telling. Less secure is plain text, more secure is what? MD5. So now in area, if you see the diagram area, how many routers do you see? We see here 3 routers. If you see 100 routers also in area 0, then you need to do authentication on each and every router, because they said area 0, and area basically means what? Group of routers. So if you find in an area there are 10 routers, you need to enable on each and every router. If there are 100 routers, each and every router you still you need to do. But please understand, your real exam, you will not have any area. Not, I don't think so in your real exam they ever have maximum to maximum maybe 6, or let's say worst case, let's say 8 routers maximum in one area. More than that I haven't seen yet. In my last 18 years experience, I have not come across people, students telling me that in one area there were so many this thing and all like that. Okay. And even if you have that kind of number of routers in a single area, then Cisco is not going to ask you to do authentication for all that, because they will be, they can test summarization is there, redistribution is there. For authentication and all, maybe between 2 routers or maybe a small area they can ask you to do in the exam. But anyways, I'm telling that if the area contains 100 routers, in a real world you come across a backbone area which needs to be secured, and you have decided to do authentication, then you need to go to each and every router. So now let's begin. Let me begin first with R3. Let me begin first with R3. Okay, and before we begin, I'll keep the traffic going between, let's say, R4 and R7. They are exchanging data between Doha, R4 and R7 Bangkok. There is some communication happening between these 2 locations. So let us go to R4 and start that ping again. You see traffic is happening, and now this area 0 administrators, they have decided they will go for what? Area based authentication, area 0 to be authentication. Now since it is area, that means I need to go where? Inside the OSPF process. So for area based authentication, I need to go inside the process, area OSPF router OSPF 1, and then which area I have decided. So in OSPF, most of the commands start with what? Area. Yesterday, if you have seen area, then area ID, then range for summarization. Now today, area, again area ID. Which area? 0. And what we want to do now today? Authentication. So I type authentication. If I type enter, this will become plain text authentication. But I said plain text example I have already shown you. So what we'll be doing? You see, MD5. So I just select message digest. I say area 0 authentication message digest. Done. Right now still communication happening. Okay, let's see what happens, how long this communication happens now, because R3 says I'm going to do authentication. I want authentication. My area 0 must be secured. I don't want my packets to be sent and received unsecured. And there you see now, again, now unreachable finish. Why? Because dead timer must have expired. Why 40 seconds, right? So default dead interval in OSPF is what? 40 seconds. So till 40 seconds, it was fine. So this is only first step. So once I have defined what authentication the area needs, now next step is what? Go to the interface which is part of that area. So as per the diagram on R3, in area 0, which interface is participating in area 0? fast Ethernet 0/0. So you need to go to the interface. So again, in OSPF also you need to come to the interface. Fast Ethernet 0/0. And over here, last time for plain text authentication, the command was what? IP OSPF authentication key. But now this time the command will be what? IP OSPF message digest key. Then like EIRP, you have key ID keychain. So you have what? Basically key ID. So you put question mark, you see key ID. Any number in the range of 1 to 255. If they don't specify, select one. If they clearly tell you what key ID should be used, you need to go with that. Then MD5, and then finally again the key. Let us keep this time Cisco. Again, neighbor is already dead. We are enabling authentication where? Okay, let us see now first. Okay, ignore that. So now R3 configured for authentication. How I did? First I went into the process, enabled authentication. Then second I went to the interface and enabled the key. What key I want to use, right? And if you see now what happens, R3 is no longer neighbor with R1 and R2. But if will R1 and R2 still neighbor? Yes, they will be still neighbor with each other. So if I go to now, do I have? Let us enable R1. So if you see show IP OSPF neighbor, we'll see R1 is neighbor with only R2 and R7, but is not neighbor with R3. So now I configure R1 also. R1 here, R1, you are part of area 0, you are a backbone router. So backbone area needs to be what? Most secured. So I say area, which area? And now this time I'm not going to type full command, I'm just going to type C shortcut. Area 0 authentication message digest. For authentication I write only AU, for message digest me. It's like hey you me. And then go to the interface towards area 0, whatever is that interface, and on that same command. On R3 I have shown the full commands. I was typing the full command IP OSPF message digest key, and now I'll show you the shortcuts. IP OSPF ME1 M Cisco. See, your router accepts the shortcuts. No need to type and waste the time. No need to press tab keys. And you see now R1 and R3 have become neighbor. What will happen with R2? R2 will still be down, because now R1 and R2 they started talking in a secret language, in coding, but R2 is still what? Plain text. If I do now show IP OSPF neighbor, now this time it will show with neighborship with 3. Last time it was showing neighborship with 2. Now it is showing on R7 side. We are not doing anything on the other side. So area 0. So this is area based authentication. Very similarly I'll do on R2 also quickly, because if you see R4 communication is not moving. The users are complaining why we are not getting connectivity, why our server is not accessible. So I go to R2 also. R2 you are also part of area 0. So okay, router OSPF 1, area 0, authentication message digest. Then go to the interface FA0/0 IP OSPF message digest key 1 MD5. Even though I'm typing shortcut, but I always repeat the command to myself. Command you should, you should say full command to yourself. And now you see R2 become neighbor with 1 also, R2 become neighbor with 3 also. If you have multiple neighbors, then what happens? This is the Ethernet, they are across a switch. Whenever routers are connected across a switch in OSPF, we call that as what? This switch environment, we call this as network as what? Broadcast multiple access, right? This is called as what? BMA. And when you have BMA multiple, there will be multiple. That's the reason what will happen. One of them will become DR, then there will be a BDR, and the other on all remaining routers will be what? DR others. Like, anyway, come back to, have they formed adjacencies? Yes. Is now R2 also part of the domain? Yes. So now area 0 again up, but now the communication is happening what? Secured. Now if somebody is attaching, somebody to this switch, since it's a switch network, somebody attaches and maybe in some laptop with an operating system, open operating system which support OSPF, because OSPF is open standard. So if somebody enables OSPF here and attaches the thing, what will happen? If he's capturing the data, capturing the packets, he will come to know that okay, OSPF is configured, but he will not come to know what is the key, because this key will be going as what? Coded. It will be sent as what? Hash value. It will never go in clear text. Means what happened to the connectivity now? Let's see what happened to the connectivity of R4. Is R4 connectivity restored? You see now it's not restored. Why? Why now? First it went down because what? We configured authentication in area 0. So there was a break. But now is area 0 again up? Yes, area 0 is again up. Then why R3, why R4 communication is not restored? Because if you see now, if I go back and I say show IP route, now R4 has partial routing information, not full. If you see, R4 does not have R7's IP, R4 does not have R1's IP, R4 does not have R2's IP. That means R4 is not having routes of area 0. Why? What about how about R5? Let us go to R5. Where is R5? Over here. Is R5 having full reachability? See, R5 has everything. R5 has 1, 2, 7, 3. Even R5 has 4 also. That means all the way up to R5, the routes are there. But then this side is area 45 and their neighbor also already. Even though we have done authentication, their neighbor. But R5 is not sending the routes here. Why? Why area 45 is getting? That means now R5 won't even send to this guy also. Why? Because now our area 45 gets isolated. Why it should get isolated? Is there already virtual link? Yes, the virtual link is already there between this R5 and R3. Is the area 0 authentication successful? Yes, that is also there. Then why? If area 0 authentication is something wrong, then R5 also will not get the route. But the routes are visible in R5. That means it's an indication that it's not because of area 0 authentication configured may be wrong. No, authentication is correct. What is the problem is what? This virtual link between R5 and R3 is down. Now the question is, somebody will say, why virtual link is down? Why? Because virtual link is considered part of what? Area 0. It's like parent-child inheritance. This is like parent, and this link is like a child of the parent. So if you configure some, you modify something on the parent, the same thing must be applied for the child also. This is called as what? Parent-child inheritance. Virtual link is considered part of area 0. How? Because if you remember what I said, virtual link is like as good as what? With this virtual link, we are like, it's like this link is becoming like elastic. I'm pulling R5 and keeping exactly over R3. And if R5 becomes part of R3 over here like this, that means is it also touching area 0? Yes. That means this link is part of area 0. And this is called as what? Virtual link. So you need to remember, if you configure authentication, whether it is plain text or whether it is MD5, doesn't matter. If you configure authentication in area 0, what will happen? All your virtual links, if there is one virtual link, if there are two virtual links in a different place, any number of virtual links, all the virtual links will get affected. They will all go down. They'll all go down. Why? Because this router R3 is part of area 0 and R3 is also having virtual link configuration. So what will happen now? See, let me first erase all this thing. If I go to R3 now, okay, if I go to R3 now, it will show me neighborship. If I do show IP also neighborship, you see R3 and R5 they are neighbor, but virtual link neighborship is not there. If you see, this virtual link neighborship is down, went down. Why went down? The moment I configured it, remember, see, the moment I configured authentication, the virtual link went down. Why? Because virtual link is child. This child is crying. My parents, they are eating cake. I also want cake. If you don't don't give me the cake, or if you don't give me ice cream, I'm going to scream, I'm going to shout, I'm going to lie down. Show IP OSPF virtual link. If I do, see here on the link, message digest authentication got enabled. Whereas if you see on R5, if I go to R5 and do the same command, do show IP OSPF virtual link, there is no message digest. It has become what? Mismatch now. One side in the hello, what is the authentication code going? 0, null. From our side, R5 side, on the virtual link, what authentication code will be going? 0, null authentication. But from R3 side, what authentication code is going? 2, mismatch. Neighborship is down. So how to do this? This is called as what? Virtual link authentication. How to do virtual link authentication? See, I'm going to show you now. What do you do? Do show run, get the OSPF configuration on the screen. Observe carefully how I do. Try to, whatever I do, whenever you're practicing, try to imitate me. First, imitate exactly what I'm doing. Then you can see you have so many things to explore later on. But initially, always follow something. First, try to establish something. Then later on, you can do lots of, combinations and permutations if you like, because there is no limit for that. You see here what I'll do, I'll go inside again OSPF, and now you see on R5 actually there is no area 0, but I need to still say, because it is logically part of area 0 R5, so I have to say, hey R5, you need to have what? Area 0 authentication message digest key, or yes, okay, full command. I'm just showing you, and there you see immediately neighborship. It was just mismatch of that authentication type code. And now again 5 and 3 became neighbor. Do show IP OSPF neighbor. You see R5 is showing twice neighborship. One is the physical neighborship, normal neighborship, and now R5 is also showing neighborship via virtual link. And now let us see on R4 what has happened. Last time it's not getting any routes of the other areas, and now is R5 forwarding to R4 all the routes? Yes. And if the routes are visible, how about the reachability? Again, reachability restored. So just enable, that's it. Okay. But if we want to specify password to be used, can we do that? Yes, we can do that also. So now I'll show you how to set the password on the virtual link. To set the password on the virtual link, copy paste the command, whatever the command is there. Bring the command back, and after that, what type of authentication you enabled? Message digest. So same command, message digest key ID 1 MD5, same command. Now in area 0, what password we said? Cisco. Now on the virtual link also the password needs to be same? Not necessary. I can keep here maybe Disco. Not necessary, but actually nobody does like that. Everywhere, every different password. Just imagine tomorrow you have like that hundreds of areas, and if you keep on setting different passwords, life will be, you are creating hurdles for yourself. So you will not remember which password is for where. We all have our personal experiences with so many emails and many times so many accounts and all, we forget the passwords every time if you try to set a same different password. Anyway, the good news is, from lab point of view also you have to think. The good news is that they tell you a password to be used, what password to be used, so you don't need to think too much in the exam. They will tell you what passwords to be used. You need to blindly do that. Real world, you are the king. You can do whatever you like in your domain. You want to keep same. You want to have a easy life, keep same. If you want to have challenges, keep it different. And now same thing I need to do where on R3 also. R3 actually already has that command area 0, but just in like a habit, best thing is what, go inside OSPF router OSPF1. I say area 0 already there, but still sometimes students forget. So best is what, even if the command is already there, it will overwrite. Doesn't matter, it's not going to remove. I'm not putting no and I say area 0 authentication. No need, it is always there. But as in, to remember easy, because one side you are doing, then what happens? Sometimes student miss out this command. On the other ear, see R3 is already having this command, but R5 is not having. So on R5 it is important to put in this command. But many times students forget that they configure R3 first and they say R3 is already having, and when they go to R5, sometimes students forget. All this I am telling from my past 18 years of experience teaching students for CCI. That's the reason. Follow, imitate me. Area 0 or authentication ME5. And then if you want the key, have I configured a key on the virtual link? Yes. So now I also need to configure the key on the both the side. The configuration must be identical. So then what is the command? Section vir for virtual. You can remember vir by. Get the command, and then since it is message digest authentication, so the command on the interface was message digest key. So now here also message digest key ID 1 MD5, and password I set on R5 disco. So on R3 also it has to be disco. Both must match. And let us see, is R4 able to communicate still? Yes. So this is your OSPF authentication. I have shown you neighbor authentication also. I have shown you how to do MD5 authentication in an area also. Plus we have also seen virtual link authentication. This is virtual link authentication is missing in, I think, CCNP. I don't know now, new syllabus. So we are done with routing protocol security. So in the control plane, we have secured the communication of routing protocol. Routing protocol communication is secured now. Now what else is there in the control plane security as per the agenda? What was it? Control plane policing. Control plane policing, also called as what? COP. Okay. Well, first let us understand what exactly, as I said, in the control plane, what else is there in the control plane? The management traffic. What is the meaning of management traffic? the protocols which we use to remotely access a device, router, switch, whatever, maybe router, switch, firewall. So we use what? We use Telnet, we use SSH, we use HTTP, somebody might be using HTTPS. So there could be different applications by which we remotely connect to a device, and maybe we do some modification, we do some configuration, or maybe for monitoring purpose or something we remotely connect. So this is all called as what? The traffic meant for the router, right? So if you see now, okay, let us go to the topology. Okay, let us start from 7. I'm going to do ping. 7 and 4 already pinging, right? So instead of ping, I'm going to do telnet. So R4, from R7, I'm going to telnet home R4, 170.10.4.4. Working? See, working. How about HTTP? So from a router, how you do HTTP? Just after the telnet command, we put what? Port 80. So I say port 80, and you see open message. Open message means what? Working. So R7 can telnet also. R7 can do HTTP also to R4. How about R5? Okay, before I do this, see the diagram now. When I'm doing when I did telnet from R7 to R4, or I did HTTP, how the traffic went? It must have gone like this, no? Whatever is the path, like that, it must have gone like this. That means it must have passed through R5, correct? To reach R4, the traffic has to go through R5. Did R5 block the traffic? No. Why a router will block the traffic? Because router is not a security device by default. Router is not a forward like a firewall by default. Router is just job is what? Any packets come like that. So when this packet, telnet packet, HTTP packet come to R5, R5 will check the IP address for the destination. The IP addresses are for whom? Somebody else. So if it is somebody else, it will be processed by which plane? Data planes. So that the traffic gets forwarded. Okay. Now I go to where? Again R7. And now this time I telnet to home R5 now. 170.10.5.5. Working? Yes. Now configured telnet like that. How about I do HTTP to R5? You see, it's not working. Why? Because by default, HTTP is not enabled. So how do we enable HTTP? Because you go to the global mode and you need to do the command IP HTTP server. So when we do this IP HTTP service, we enable. Maybe you have some application. You want to do some, when maybe some application on the R5 router which requires in the background maybe HTTP service, and that's the reason you need to enable sometime this service. But now once the moment I enabled this service, let's say we are enabling this service for what? Some reason, because of some application which needs to be supported. But what is happening now? Once I enable this, if I go to R1 now, and I do HTTP to R5 now, telnet 170.10.5.5 port 80C. Now people all are able to do HTTP to R5. R1 is able to do HTTP. R6, if you do see, R6 is able to do it. How about R4? Even R4 on the other, from the other side, R4 is also able to do it. So everybody is able to do HTTP. Everybody is able to do telnet. Now, what is the problem with HTTP and telnet? The traffic goes as what? Clear text. Telnet is not secured, and that's the reason in the industry people prefer what? Whenever you want to remotely access, we have what? SSH configured. SSH is not supported by default. Later on, I'll show you how to configure SSH. Right now, so please understand SSH is better compared to Telnet. Nobody uses Telnet. So now we find that R5 people are telnetting to R5. People are doing HTTP to R5. You tell people, you send a mail to everybody, please don't do telnet, don't do HTTP to people. But what happens even if we send mails and all everything? What happens? People don't listen. People ignore, even though you send like a company group policy. Also, if you implement, there are some people who still avoid. So this could be what violation. There could be security violations. So now what I want to do is what I know that all this traffic, telnet, HTTP, they are ultimately part of which plane? Control plane. So how do I block telnet and HTTP? Normally, how we block telnet and HTTP? I can create an access list in on R5. I can say R5 deny telnet, deny HTTP from any source to R5's own IP address, and then what I do, I can go and apply on the interface. But thing like that now. R5 is, let's say R5 is having R5 is an interface. R5 is a router with, let's say, 20 interfaces. So how will I configure R5? If it has 20 interface, means what? R5 is having 20 IP address. That means the access list which I create, it will be what? Minimum 21 statement access list, because I need to specify deny source any destination first IP of R5, EQ port 80. Then same thing, EQ telnet 23. That means for HTTP 20 statements, telnet 20 statement, 40 statement, deny statement, and in the end permit any. Altogether 41 statement access list you need to create if you have a router with, let's say, 20 interfaces. And then what you need to do? After that, you need to go on to all the links, all the interfaces, and you need to apply the the command IP access group and your access list number. So it's not scalable. Any one interface, suppose we forget to put that, any one interface we forget to apply the access list, what will happen? From that interface, people will be able to do telnet and HTTP. Any one IP address I miss in the access list, again on that IP, telnet and HTTP. So this is maybe not scalable. There could be administrative mistakes, and the administrator maybe miss out a particular interface. Or the problem is what? Maybe somebody creates a new loopback and advertise in the routing. What will happen? That new loopback gets advertised. Now all people come to know about a new IP, and then they will telnet on that. So that's the reason this is not scalable. So now what I take advantage, I know that okay, if somebody is telnetting, somebody is doing HTTP for R5, the packets basically will be coming as what? Its own IP. So it will be this packets will be forwarded to which plane? Control plane. So in this control plane, what I can do? If I apply a policy and I say deny this telnet, deny this HTTP, these two guys you deny, what will happen? Finish. Now anybody telnetting from anywhere to R5, any IP address, ultimately the packet will come inside this container, and on this container the policy is there. On this container you have put a guard, and this guard says, sorry, hey telnet, hey HTTP, I'm not allowing you guys. So this is called as what? Control plane policing. Policing basically means what? Dropping. Okay, let us see that how to do this now. It's a scalable method. Okay, very quickly I'll show you now. Let's see. So right now everybody is able to do telnet and HTTP to R4. Yes, and now see what I do. Whether you do normal way of access list or whether you do control plane policing, what you need to do? Oh, I think on a different router. We still need to define what? An access list. But if you remember, normally if you are doing with the access list, if R5 is having 20 IP addresses, 20 interfaces, physical, logical, loopback, all kinds of interfaces. My access list, as I said, for each application 20 statement will be required. 20 like two application, telnet and HTTP 40. But you see now what my life becomes so easy. Let's say I say access list number 123, any number, no, extended access list. I say access list 123, and what I want to deny, telnet and HTTP. So instead of denying telnet and HTTP in this access list, what I will say, permit. Telnet is what? TCP. From where? Any source. Destination, any destination. Which application? Telnet. Then, which is the second application? HTTP. Finish. See my access list. So easy access list. Only two statements. One statement for telnet, one statement for HTTP. And then in the source and destination also, I don't care. I say any source and any destination. I'm not bothered. I say, and instead of denying, I'm saying what? Rather permit. Very slowly, immediately, just wait, have patience, you will come to know why I permitted this. So ultimately I want to deny these two applications. So anybody is going to do telnet or HTTP to R5 is supposed to deny. Okay, so first step is what? Create an access list. Whichever application you want to deny in the access list, what do you do? Permit it. Why? Just now I'll explain. Wait. Clear? Step one. Now next step is like what? In route filtering, what we used to do? Route map, right? So now instead of route map, you have something called as what? Class map. Okay. So you create what? Some class map. You give some name. Let me give some name. Let's say I call it, say, class map pop. Enter. That's it. Very simple. Now class map doesn't have sequence number. Class map does not have sequence number, does not have powers like route map. But command is like route map, class map, and then name like a route map. That's it. And inside this now, like route map, it has what? Match. And then I match the access list. But for the matching the access list, the command is not match IP address. In route map, the command is match IP address and access list. Over here, it is match access group and access list number. What is the access list number I created? Like that. What is the meaning of this? Whatever this access list is matching, means any HTTP packet, any telnet packet, if they come to R5, what will happen? They will become part of which group? They become part of this class map pop. So they become part of this class map pop. So all the packets will be in this container like kind of thing. Okay. Finished. Class map done. Second step done. Now what I do? I define my policy. What is my actual policy? I want to deny telnet and HTTP, right? So I define, the next step is what? Define a policy map. And again, policy map also needs what? Some name. So I give some, let's say this time I give name caps pop control plane policy. It can be anything, not necessarily it has to be pop only. Please, some students, then they think that okay, if we are doing control plane policing, the policy map name has to be pop. No, not necessary. Name can be anything, alphanumeric, lowercase, uppercase, whatever you like. Okay. Now what I do? I call this class map. I say, hey, class map pop, come inside, come. So the class map is coming to policy map. And what I say? You are dropped. So now clear why I permitted in the access list these two applications, because if I permit the application, they go to where? They land where? Inside this class map pop. And this class map pop is landing where? Inside this policy map pop. And now this policy map is taking what action? Drop. If you put question mark, see, you have permit option also there maybe. Drop is there. Sorry, not permit. You have other different kinds of options also there. We'll see all these options later on. We'll be seeing these options. Some of these options were in your QoS. I'll be showing you in QoS. Whenever we'll do QoS, that time I'll show you. This will be the policing, priority, all this thing, random detect, all this I'll be explaining you there. This is nothing but like kind of QoS, but now this is, we don't call this as QoS. Okay. So now I created access list, then I created class map, then we created what? Policy map. Done. But where we created all these three things? On the global mode. Whatever we configure on global mode doesn't work unless and until it is applied somewhere. Like if you create an access list, you go to some interface and apply. But now we don't want to apply on the interface, right? Because if if you wanted to apply on the interface, then we wouldn't have done all this thing. It is not scalable needed. So I want the configuration to be what? Scalable. That means tomorrow, even on R5, even if new interfaces also are added, still my policy should work. Nobody will be able to telnet or HTTP to R5 only. Somebody will say, but why did where did we specify? Where did we specify R5? I did not specify in the destination any of the R5 IP address. There are 20 IP address over here. I should have 20 statement over here. I should have done no. I don't specify. It was not needed. I'll explain that also. So what is the next step now? The next step is what? Apply this policy. Where do I apply? I remember all this traffic is ultimately going to go where? Which plane? Control plane. So what I do, I call the control plane now. So there is a command called as what? On the router global mode, control plane. So type control plane. And then inside this control plane, what we do? We say service policy. To apply the policy, the command is what? Service policy. And then the direction, it will be like, you know, I don't want people to telnet to me. So that means the traffic will be coming incoming. So if you see question mark, basically, I specify input and then the name of the policy map. What was the name of the policy map? Caps cop, right? Always better to verify. Cop, yes. And immediately see what happens. Control plane policing feature enabled on control plane aggregate path. Some message is coming that means COP has been enabled. Finish. Show policy map control plane. And if you see, it says this is the input policy map. It is having a call class map cop. Class map cop is matching this access list, and the default action is what? Drop. All remaining other traffic will be what? Forwarded. So right now, if you see 13 packets have been forwarded, 13 packets R5 received, they were all forwarded. Again the counter, see, again the counter is increasing. For this second class, this is already there by default. There is an inbuilt class called as what? Class default. So it is already there. I did not do anything. And now let's see, people were doing telnet. In spite of telling them not to do telnet, not to do HTTP, they were doing telnet. HTTP gone. I go to another router R1. He was doing telnet. Not possible. R6 was doing HTTP. Gone. R4 from another side doing telnet. Blocked. So now if R5 has even 100 interfaces, no matter anybody from any of the interface sends HTTP and telnet traffic for R5, what will happen? It will get blocked. Why I did not specify the IP address, destination IP address? Because if you see, when the packets are coming in, any type of packet is incoming to a router interface, what the router is already doing? Checking the IP, destination IP, the IP header, destination IP. And what I said, if it finds its own IP, any of these IP, suppose R5 is having 50 interface, 50 IP addresses, any of its IP is visible, he says, hey, you go where? You are supposed to be where? Processed by control plane. And once it comes in control plane, who is standing here? This guy, cop, is standing. Cop says, hey, where you are going? He says, okay, I'm going to catch you. I'll put you behind the bar. That's the reason it is called as policing. Policing means basically means for dropping. Scalable. Omni statement access list. Since it was 2 applications, only 2 statement access list. On how is the syntax of the access list? Also very simple. Permit TCP any. That's it. So easy. Permit TCP any EQ telnet or EQ HTTP or whatever protocol. You can't deny any other because in management traffic, control plane traffic means only this guys. So whatever is part of control plane, only they can be. If in the access list, suppose I define some like voice packet, voice traffic, something, some other application if I define, but if it is not part of control plane, it will never, because if it is not part of control plane, it will never be coming into control. It will be forwarded via data plane. How about the traffic? How about the traffic? How about telnet and HTTP to R4, which is behind R5? Because in R5 I have what access list which says permit TCP any, that means any source, any destination. Let us see now. R7 was previously able to do HTTP to R4, that is still working. R4 7 R7 was able to do telnet to, that is also working. So others traffic is not affected. Why others traffic is not affected? Because anytime HTTP packet is coming to R5, it is checking the packet, opening the IP header. Inside the IP header, what it finds? Its own IP? No. Since it is not its own IP, the packet will be forwarded to which plane? From here. No, here no policy is there. Policy is on the control plane. Clear? So this is called as what? Control plane policing. Or this is called as what? Control plane security. Routing protocols, traffic. You want to secure your remote access traffic. You want to secure. You want to define which remote traffic can be permitted, which remote traffic should be not permitted, should not be permitted, like that. Okay, guys. So we are done for the session as of today's session. We'll be meeting again on Monday. Tomorrow you will get in the WhatsApp group the agenda for the next week. What are the topics lined up for the next week?